What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of That Amazon Ads Podcast. Today we got an awesome topic. We're going to be going over the 10 most crucial steps to a successful Amazon PPC launch. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Steven. How are you doing today?
Doing great, as always, Andrew, and very excited for the guest that we have on today who will be taking us through this 10-step plan to launch. We're joined by Owais, the CEO and founder of Amerify. Owais, how are you doing, and where are you that has that incredible background?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me on, guys. I am in Dubai right now.
All of the successful people on Amazon live in Dubai, so that should be a strong indicator that there's a lot of knowledge about to come out of this man. And Owais, for people who don't know you, why don't you just give them a quick kind of recap of how you even landed in the Amazon space? Because as we say, no one as a kid thinks one day I want to be in e-commerce. So let's actually hear that first. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? And then how did you end up being in doing what you do now? And also let us know what Amerify does.
What I wanted to be when I was a kid probably was to become a pilot. That never came around. But the family was always into business. And I kind of, as the years kind of progressed, I decided, okay, business is where I want to be at. So that's where I landed into the Amazon FBA space. Just a quick YouTube search, how to make money online. FBA comes up, and that's one place to get started. So that's how I landed. And I've been selling on Amazon since 2019. So just about 6 years now, and launched about 6 brands. Exited about one to Thrasio in 2021 for about 7 figures. And then started the agency, kind of understood like a private label brand takes a lot of cash. I don't want to be in that game. I want to be in the cash flow business. So that's where the agency comes in.
Smart. You said 6 brands in total?
Yeah.
And so what happened to the other 5? Are they still operating?
Some of them took a loss and kind of dwindled down. And yeah, that's kind of like the story of it. There's one brand that's still active and just humming along. It's kind of 6 figures, but not a lot of.
Are you still managing it?
Yes.
Nice. That's great. And then with Amerify, what do you guys primarily help people do?
The premise of like Amerify kind of coming up was I've understood the game off Amazon, which is more organic ranking. A lot of people focus on PPC. So for us, it's full service management for a private label business that can understand the organic numbers better from an organic ranking perspective, and then tie it down with PPC as well.
Awesome. Well, I did not know that you had so many brands. So that's awesome. And for anyone who is a brand owner listening to this, and if you've ever worked with an agency before, if that agency was not founded by someone who is has launched a lot of brands before and is especially currently working with their own brand, that's the type of person you want to be working with, just because they have that kind of boots on the ground experience. And that's just talent that's indispensable with agencies. So sweet. Let's dive in, and we're just going to transition into how to launch these PPC campaigns and products on Amazon.
So to get started with launching on Amazon using PPC, you got to go up one step deeper into identifying your keywords. So the way that we look at it, and I look at it personally, is like there's root keywords that you want to look into before you actually start a PPC campaign. And there are a lot of keywords out there, but there are a certain number of root keywords that really matter to the overall extended keywords, like phrase match or broad match keywords that live on Amazon. And you have to understand the root words. So you want to group them together. You want to identify which is the most relevant root word. Sometimes what happens is the main keyword that you're going after is very competitive. You don't want to go after that keyword because you don't have the reviews, you don't have the social proof to go after that specific keyword. So you want to identify the longer tail root format of that keyword that's hyper relevant for you. And that's where tools such as SQP and Product Opportunity Explorer kind of come in and help you. Obviously, there's third-party tools, Helium 10, Jungle Scout, those all help you. But the point of using Amazon's first-party data is you can't get better data than Amazon directly, right? So what happens is when you're launching a new ASIN, you might not have the SQP data for that specific ASIN. So what you want to do is before launch, well ahead before launch, you want to create a listing, a dummy listing, an FBM listing, whatever it might be, get yourself listed on Amazon, send a little bit of traffic to that dummy listing and try to fulfill that order. Maybe it's 10 units, maybe it's 20 units that you have ahead of time before you ship in all of your inventory. So that way you get the SQP data. Now, once you get the SQP data, now you're much more equipped with more powerful data to launch on Amazon the right way, right? So that's what we recommend doing upfront versus like relying on third-party tools or third-party data for a new launch. So that's where like the first step, identifying keywords comes in. That's where.
Yeah. For everyone who's watching this, we are, showing this Notion board that Owais put together. And there's also, so you guys can get this. He's offering this as a free resource. There's also, if you click here, you saw me click it there accidentally, but there is this, it's called a Gantt chart, right?
Yep.
So you'll have this nice chart that can walk you through, depending on what your start date is, what the process should look like. So this is a phenomenal resource that is available for free. But I think the caveat is people need to like and subscribe and also connect with Owais on LinkedIn. And then when you ask Owais, he'll give this to you for free. All you got to do is just shoot him a message on LinkedIn and you can get it. We might put it in the description of the video so you can access it there as well. But of course, us, we need to hit a certain like goal. So if we get, 40 likes, this will be on the video for free. Otherwise, you can just reach out to Owais and he'll give it to you. So question for you, Owais. This is a really good idea. I'm curious with Amazon's, you've seen the product opportunity explorer, right? And you can drill into like different niches and demands and stuff. Does that change at all? Like, I guess, with the advent of that tool, does this change at all? Or would you still recommend launching those products so you can get that sheer SQP data rather than just going off the product opportunity explorer?
Really good question. I personally would rely on SQP data a lot more because it gives you the exact conversion rate of the market. And that's what we're trying to go after. Product Opportunity Explorer does not give it to you. So that's where using SQP would be the first choice during launch.
Great. And let's go on to point number 2.
So point number 2 really goes back to what I was referring to for market conversion rate and your ASIN's conversion rate. The point being, once you have the SQP data, once you send a little bit of traffic, now you have a little bit more data for single keywords that you're trying to go after. Let's say you've identified the root keyword that you want to go after, and now we want to identify the conversion rate of that specific keyword. Really simple step. I'm sure, Stephen, you've covered this in the past, which is looking at your ASIN purchases divided by the ASIN clicks that happen on that specific keyword, and that'll give you the conversion rate of your ASIN. And then you can do the same thing for the market. And let's say your ASIN is actually converting much better than the market. That's the set of keywords that you want to go for. The ideal data point that you want to look at is if it's like at least 1% to 2% higher than your market conversion rate. That's where you want to stand at. And then the more traffic you send in, the better data that you're going to get for the initial 2 weeks, right? And this applies to a relaunch as well. So if you're thinking about, okay, where can I go back and like look into my existing ASINs that have been performing okay-ish, let's try to hone down onto the market conversion rate and your ASIN's conversion rate and see 99% of the times, if your ASIN's conversion rate is below market, you're not going to be ranked in the top 10 for that organic spot. And the goal on Amazon at all times is the organic ranking. A lot of people kind of miss out on it and not report out on it. So that's where like there's only 3-4 things that you got to look into from an Amazon business perspective. Is you got to look at inventory, you got to look at organic ranking, you got to look at your PPC and profitability. Those are like top 4 things if you look at it from a high level bird's eye view. So that's what point 2 talks about, is like validate the keyword that you want to go after. The ones that actually are below the market conversion rate, you don't want to target them. You want to improve your offer in a sense, okay, why is my conversion rate lower than the market for that specific keyword, and just fix those specific issues. It might be price, it might be your main image, it might be your secondary images, A+ content, whatever it might be, diagnose it and then fix it and then do this all over again. So that's what keyword validation covers over.
These ASINs that we're talking about, these are still kind of like in a testing experimental mode or a launch mode. So I would imagine it's very unlikely that such a new product would have a conversion rate higher than the market conversion rate. Is that so, or have you actually seen the opposite?
I've seen the opposite. So
Really?
for keywords, it doesn't really matter as long as you're sending enough traffic on it, even though you might not have enough reviews on it. If the product that you're launching is actually superior and you're able to convey that to the audience, it doesn't matter. And that's what we've seen time and time again. Is like, if our offer is much better, then you're going to convert above the market conversion rate.
And you say here that if the ASIN conversion rate is below the conversion rate, you should improve your offer, stay competitive by addressing pricing, imaging, or listing quality. What about just abandoning the product? Is this a stage at which you would consider that, or does that come later, or is this just assuming the product's going to work? Yeah.
So that's a very deep question. It goes back to product development, where why did you launch that product in the first place? What is your superior advantage? You're not just throwing a Me Too product. Those days have gone long back, right? It's about how can you one up or have a better offer. So when you say abandon a product, we look at it from a different perspective, which is once you do launch it and you've done everything right by the playbook, by let's say month 6 to month 12, during that window, you got to identify the ROI on that specific ASIN. If the ROI is not where you want it to be, then you gotta call it quits.
Got it. So this is kind of this 10-step scenario is kind of assuming that you've already done a good job researching the product and developing a high quality product. So that's very important to note, because we have way too many people launching weak products and thinking PPC is going to fix it. I just sent Andrew a screenshot last night. This one very small brand I'm working with has a product that's repeatedly getting 1-star reviews. It's a $250 product. I purchased one of the products to leave it a 5-star review just to help them out. And when I received the product, there's an app associated with it. And I was like, dude, this mobile app is garbage. Like, I gave you a 5-star review, but I would not have if you were not my client, you know? And everything, their conversion rate is just dropping. And they keep wanting to talk about PPC strategy and all these things. I'm like, guys, you have 2.5 stars. Like, this PPC is not going to help. So yeah.
I can totally relate on that. We have a similar type of client, and the product doesn't come with a important component to make it work. You got to purchase it separately. So that's where like people are returning it because it's not working, because technically you got to buy the other stuff off of their website.
Cool. All right, let's go into point 3 here.
Perfect. Yeah. So we're looking at the different factors for like ranking, right? There's relevancy, there's visibility, and then there's the offer, right? So these 3 factors are really important to understand when you're trying to rank on a specific keyword. Is it relevant enough, right? Are you sending enough PPC traffic on top of search placement for that maximum exposure? And then obviously, is it converting below or above market to identify whether you want to go after that specific keyword? So when you're looking at a keyword level that you want to rank on and launch on, you want to identify these 3 ranking factors. So yeah, that's where step 3 comes in.
There's a lot of debate in the Amazon space around what the most important primary metric is that Amazon's looking at to gauge ranking and all that. Some people say it's click-through rate. Some people say it's conversion rate. I see you have, running through that step 2, looking at the ASIN conversion rate or click-through rate as well. In your experience, you mentioned going after top of search. Is that just because conversion rate seems to be most high there, and that's where you can, really drive the most effective traffic and improve ranking? Do you notice that top of search is better for ranking than some of these other placements, even, if you're able to balance them out?
I would say conversion rate is the ultimate, most important metric when you're looking at ranking. Because if it's not converting, then why would Amazon even show you in the first place? You might have the best click-through rate, but if it's not like converting, then what's the point of it? So conversion rate would be the most important metric when you're looking at it. And why top of search? That's a really good question. We've seen from our data points from Ad Labs and other metrics is when you're comparing conversion rate data on top of search, 80 to 90%, 85 to 90% of the times, top of search is the best performing or the best converting placement type. So that's where allocating enough budget on top of search gives you that momentum of conversion rate. And going back to like what's most important, I said conversion rate, but if you look at it from a perspective of Amazon, they're like Earth's most customer centric company, right? They want the best consumer experience and the best products to be delivered to them. So there's a lot of factors when Amazon decides to put you on the top for a keyword or for a keyword. So one of those are one of many factors, and one of those are like the FBA fees, the advertising spend that you're doing on that specific ASIN and keyword, how much referral fees are they getting on each individual unit. All of those metrics, kind of if you multiply each aspect and then apply a unit velocity, that's when you really see the answer of like, okay, this is how much Amazon is making. So it's in their best interest to prioritize this product over the other ones. That's where like a lot of these Chinese products come off and they're selling 2x the unit velocity, and they're able to sustain that ranking and be profitable. Obviously, they have better margins from their perspective, but they're able to sustain it because of that Amazon's fee structure. Amazon's winning at all times. So that's that. If you shift your mindset of like, how can I make Amazon win at all times? Your product is going to win.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've had people on this kind of illustrated a similar dynamic where, you know, Amazon wants to make the customer the most happy and make themselves the most happy. And if you can balance those two and bring those two together, Amazon tends to reward those types of products.
100%.
Cool. Let's keep it rolling.
Number 4, relevancy.
Amazon doesn't know as soon as you list a product, there's like listing and launching. When you list a product, Amazon doesn't really know what is that product. So yes, you've given all the inputs from a title, bullet points, A+ content, whatever it might be. But ultimately, what will dictate is what customer is typing and which keyword are they purchasing from. So that's where like super important earlier on during your launch phase to make sure that you don't switch on auto campaign. That's something that you don't want to do, because now if you get a sale from a irrelevant keyword, you might get it. We've seen it happen. You might get a irrelevant search term and Amazon kind of thinks, okay, this is what this product is. And now you're kind of Amazon automatically switches your category type, item type keyword on the back end automatically. And now you're like struggling during your launch. So that's where avoiding the auto campaign and just really focusing on like the exact match campaign is your best bet, alongside like a little bit of like phrase or broad. We kind of interchange them, but that's what we recommend kind of doing that for building that relevancy. So Amazon doesn't know what you sell initially. And then you want to make sure that you define that relevance by targeting the keywords. And then one thing we've noticed is even though you change the title of a best-selling product, like let's say a product is selling hundreds of units, thousands of units a day, and you change the title of that specific product, you're not going to see Amazon de-index you for the keywords that you remove from the title, because you've already built that relevance through those sales that are happening on the organic and the PPC side. So that's a kind of much better answer of like, okay, yes, SEO is important, but the actual sales history or the conversion history takes precedence over SEO.
Yeah, that's such a massive point that I think more people need to realize, is that they think SEO, like I would actually argue that conversion history is SEO, right? Like, but a lot of people think SEO is narrowly refined to only what are the keywords that you're using in the title, description, and backend, when realistically, the single most important factor that is search engine optimization is performance within the search engine. That like the better you perform within the search engine, the more optimized you are to appear higher in the search engine results page or the SERP. So yeah, that's absolutely massive. I think that's a great point where, if you, after a certain time, like what's in the title and description is really just giving Amazon that initial idea of what you are. And after that, it really just comes down to your performance history. So if you're converting well on these keywords every time with low return rates, it does not matter if you add in those keywords or remove those keywords. Amazon's history on the actual performance is going to be what they rely on most, because that's real data that equals dollar amounts to Amazon, how much Amazon's making and how satisfied the customers are. So yeah, great point there. What about number 5?
Yeah, so number 5 is the actual meat of the discussion, which is launching your PPC, right? There's a lot of discussion in terms of what is the best structure to do it and whatnot. What we follow is pretty simple. Just focus on the root keywords that you're trying to go after using a single keyword campaign. And then try to make sure that you're targeting different routes within the single keyword campaign so you have maximum control. The most important metrics during launch isn't your ACOS, isn't your tacos, isn't your ROAS. It is the conversion rate of that specific campaign and how well you're performing. So when you change your mindset in terms of, I'm not looking for profit, I'm looking to give all the right signals to Amazon, that's when Amazon starts rewarding you with the organic performance. So pretty straightforward. One campaign with one ad group and one ASIN within it, and then making sure that it's a single keyword campaign. And then you can layer on after 1 week or so, once you've built enough relevance for the first week, layer on like phrase match or a broad match to make sure that Amazon also extends the reach because it's identified your relevance of that specific product.
You don't have auto campaigns in there.
Yep, no auto campaigns. Auto campaigns would be a much later stage play for us. So probably think of it from like the 4th week or the 5th week of the launch for that ASIN. That's typically how we prioritize the auto campaigns. Obviously, it's not like one set rule. It's dynamic. It changes depending on the product's needs and how well or how bad the launch is going. Not every launch is perfect. So you want to make sure you're fine-tuning it and monitoring the numbers on a daily basis.
Yep. And we agree with that. I think the primary reason for us that you would also agree with Owais is that auto campaigns for a new product are way too exploratory and researching and testing and stuff. As Amazon's basically just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. The only caveat is like you're paying for all those clicks, which can just be very expensive. You're basically funding Amazon's research. And in this case, like as the people who've launched the product, we already know what the keywords are. So it's better to start with a smaller set of keywords that are highly relevant, that are basically what you design the product around. And that way you can really manage those cost controls. And there's going to be a lot of investment on the front end with these ads, but that way you can keep that initial investment as manageable as possible, as efficient as possible, and just better control that budget. So those are some great points.
We were talking about trying to just funnel everything into maximum conversion, that being the primary KPI. On Amazon, there sometimes are keywords that aren't necessarily super conversion focused. That may be a root keyword. I would consider, and Steven and I kind of call them like browsy keywords, where people are kind of coming through and they're just kind of shopping around there, but that's not actually where they convert. And are you saying that you kind of look for those places and avoid those browsy keywords where people are just kind of window shopping or more of a consideration stage of the funnel? Like, are you trying to avoid those and just focus on those main keywords where all the conversion is kind of coming from for whatever the targets or the product that you're looking at are?
100%. That's absolutely correct. And we don't want to do, we call them top of funnel keywords. We don't want to go after those top of funnel, like very vague type of keywords that kind of don't describe the product very descriptively, right? So that's what we would recommend, is like not having the top of funnel keywords showing initially. You can layer them on as you've built relevance, but for the initial kickstart, you don't want to do that because now you're just burning through clicks and you're not converting. So you're showing Amazon the wrong signals. So that's the most important piece. To go back to one point, which is there are ways out there that we use to identify the negative targets of a competitor that is doing pretty well, right? So there are ways out there to do it, and we've been able to do it successfully, is find out what are the negative targets. So we don't have to go through the hoops of testing those keywords again when we know the best seller in that niche has them is in a negative exact match or phrase match targets, right? So that avoids completely the burning of budget initially, because you know where the actual money is and just focus on that.
So you're saying you can see where competitors are basically negating and not, choosing to put their spend? Interesting.
Yeah, always. There's a lot of gold in here. We are unfortunately running a little bit out of time, so we're going to have to go a little bit faster through these last 5. But this is just all the more reason for people to make sure that they reach out to you to connect with, because we're probably going to have to, speed things up. So if you guys really want to dive into more detail with numbers, well, really 1 through 10, make sure you hit up Owais because we could probably, this episode could be 2 hours long, and we're not gonna do that. So let's talk about this 6th point here, visibility.
Yeah, visibility, super important to track where you're showing up on your PPC once you've launched the campaigns. The most important piece is like how well is your top of search impression share performing, and then based on the metrics that you're able to see on PPC, fine tune your bids and go from there, right? So the faster you can get data, the better you can make decisions. So it's all about how fast you can spend money on top of search. So that's what the 6th point talks about.
In terms of your tech stack that you're using for all this stuff, for like tracking ranking, optimizing campaigns, what softwares have you been using that you would recommend?
Yeah, Data Dive is a huge one. We use it on a daily basis over here for tracking organic ranking. We use it in conjunction with Helium 10. There are certain data points that we prefer Helium 10 over Data Dive and vice versa. So those are like the two most important tools from a keyword research perspective. And then from a optimization of ads, we use Ad Labs, obviously. And that's the most important one for us to identify the...
Oh, Ad Labs. I haven't heard of that one. What do you like about them? What do they do?
They are able to give us the RPC data for the placements. And that's the most important data for us to make decisions on a PPC level, especially using SQP. And I want to give a huge shout out to Yuri for the Seller Central Utilities Chrome extension that he has.
Absolutely,
that on
Yuri Rahimi. He was also on the podcast. Great guy. Yeah, that was actually where we all first met. I think was at an Amazon conference. Yeah, we were all hanging out with us in Europe. All right, number 7, initial offer.
Yeah, so the offer elements are pretty straightforward. Once you've identified what's working, what's not working, you got to tweak these to make sure your offer wins for the keywords that you're going after, right? So there's only so many things you can do. The most important being title, price points, and then your main image. Those are the 3 most important, but then the remaining also are pretty important to make sure that your conversion rate improves. So you want to win the click and then get the conversion. So fine tune what needs working on and then fix it.
Quick question on this one. When it comes to pricing, I've heard a lot of things about like setting it 50% below your target price or even 80% sometimes, and then just like incrementally inching it up over a period of time. Have you found that to be effective, or do you think that like, do you have to inch it back up, or are you kind of going from more of a reduced lower price in the beginning just to get that conversion and velocity going and then going up to your kind of target price, or what's your strategy there?
Totally depends on the brand owner. Sometimes they're not willing to offer it at break even. Our recommendation would be to start off at break even. So that way you build that momentum really quickly and then inch up. That way you get the data fastest. Once again, it all goes back to how quickly can you get the data and optimize. And the fastest way is like to lower your price than the competitors to kind of get your foot in the door. But not all the times is that applicable. So that's where you want to be a little bit more creative in terms of strike through pricing, right? There's a hack out there which anybody can use. Very simple. Create a new FBM listing for your ASIN. Set it 25, 30% higher than the price point. Go buy it yourself. Amazon sees that in the record. Like, okay, this particular ASIN has one sale in the last 30, 60 days off that price. So now you lower it back to your FBA pricing, and now it'll give you that strike through, right? So now it gives you that perceived value of offer. So that's one hack that we utilize.
That's very interesting. Nice. I did not know that. I thought the price needed to be there for 30 or 60 days.
No, so you can do it. You can do it using FBM SKU. So same ASIN, just an FBM SKU, and go buy it or ask anybody else to buy it for you, and wait about 3 to 4 days, and Amazon automatically gives you that. Okay, this was the previous price. Previously, you only needed to put list price in there, but now it doesn't work. You got to actually have a sale on the higher price point.
That's huge. Yeah. And so would that be your primary recommendation as opposed to just having a really low price without that strike through? Or, I mean, the same could apply for applying a deal, right? Like those lightning deals or best deals badges, or you show here like coupons. So if someone's saying what's better, just start with a low price or try to get that discount, the appearance of a discount, which would you recommend?
So when you're launching, launch at the retail price that you ideally want to be at. get at least 3 to 5 sales, ideally 10 sales, and add that regular pricing of that FBA SKU, and then start lowering your price so that way you get a red badge, lowest in the last 30 days badge showing up on your product detail page, right? So that's super important to get your click-through rates coming in. So I wouldn't recommend the strike-through pricing. That's only when brand owners don't want to be as aggressive with their pricing, right? But if you can be aggressive, do it. By all means, it's only going to help and boost your BSR. And you've talked about this in the past, I believe, about the cold start or the honeymoon period. It is there. Amazon doesn't know, but once again, not a lot of people know about it. Amazon doesn't know about the product. So that's where if you can show quick results and Amazon doesn't have that negative history, and I call negative history BSR that has been active or going up and down, it's not being really consistent. That's where you want to make sure that you jumpstart the listing once again, and ideally give as much velocity during that first 30, 60, 90 days. There's not a set number, but once again, you can do it for any ASIN. You can treat it as a relaunch. But yeah, that's super important during that first honeymoon period, as we call it.
Reviews, super important for a brand new product. Do you have any strategies around that? How are you getting those initial reviews, making sure that they're positive? Any sort of hacks related to getting reviews?
Yeah, there is a super gray hat, black hat kind of tactic that we utilize. It is completely not against QS, but if Amazon would find out, they would definitely block it. So it's too sensitive to share on the podcast. So if anybody wants to hear about it, it's basically, we call it the unlimited Vine reviews hack. So technically, you can get unlimited Vine reviews for a new product launch. So yeah, that's what we utilize, and it's all for free.
We'll have to have you join the Discord, then you can share that for all of our members in there. We got 1,000 members in the Discord group. You should join.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Link below there as well. That's where we like to share those tactics that we can't say publicly. So
100%.
All right, number 8.
Yeah, so number 8 goes on the offer, builds upon the offers, like using different tools to identify what is the best kind of paint image or price point, whatever it might be, or the secondary images. There are different tools out there: PickFu, IntelliV, Sellametrics. Choose which one you like. All of them have pretty much the same data. We prefer IntelliV and Sellametrics, but yeah, once again, you can use anyone to do your tests, specifically for main image. Manage experiments is good, but we don't rely on it. It's super slow and not the best use of your time. You want data fast during launch, and that's not the best way to get it. Number 9, so super important. Not a lot of people do it, which is tracking your organic rank. We use Data Dive as well as Helium 10 to kind of track it on a daily basis. Helium 10 allows you to do it on an hourly basis as well for a 10-day period. So if you press the red rocket, we love it, and we click on it, and as soon as it expires, we click on it again, right? So it allows you to see and monitor your organic ranking on an hourly basis to see the fluctuations. There's a lot of fluctuations that happen on an hourly basis that you wouldn't see if you were looking at it on a daily basis. So it's super important to kind of look at your organic ranking and how well PPC performance is doing. We love the view of Data Dive, where you can see the search term report or the search term impression share report combined with your organic ranking at the keyword level for an ASIN. It really gives you a good view of how well your PPC is performing and why your organic rankings are either sliding down or sliding up, right? It's super important to track your organic ranking. That's the most important metric, I would say, on Amazon, even more important than PPC metrics, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, in terms of this whole rank response and monitoring, I'm curious because, at least from my experience, I usually when we try to do all these different ranking strategies, sometimes the opposite happens, but it's because there's so many other variables involved, right? You're trying to pull all these different levers on your one product, but there's also 100 other products and competitors that are also doing their own experiments, switching images, going on deals, etc. So sometimes a strategy for you that normally works seems to be not working, and it's because someone else did something, and it's kind of impossible to track all of the changes on all of the competitors. So I guess I'm wondering 2 questions. Number 1, how accurate have these readings been for you? Are they giving you clear results as expected, or do you run into that issue a lot where there's all these other uncontrolled variables And then number 2 is basically what do you do about it?
Yeah, so there are a lot of uncontrolled variables, and you can see that in the data. But it goes back to like the keyword validation up top, right? Step 2, step 1 that we discussed about the conversion rate. We know the market is telling us that we are actually converting much better than the market. So the data tells us we should technically be ranking for that keyword, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have done all these efforts to rank on that keyword. So we know we're going to rank on it. Once we're going to stick the ranking once we do rank on that keyword, so top 3. And what do we do about it for the uncontrolled variables? I mean, there's only so much we can do. Let's say we've seen this in the past where competitor, as soon as we've taken market share, competitor starts like running deals or lowering prices. So now they're taking market share, right? And we know it's not sustainable for them. So we kind of waited out for them to kind of do all their stuff because we know from our data points that we're going to win because SQP is telling us we're performing better than that. Another way to kind of quickly compare your conversion rate or conversion share is the top search terms on brand analytics, right? You can see the top 3 products and their conversion share and the click share. That'll tell you like, okay, how well they're converting for that specific search term. And technically, if you do all things right, you're going to be in the top 2, top 3 spots.
All right, final step, number 10.
Yeah, rinse and repeat, right? Once you've done it for one set of root of keywords, do it for the next set, right? And just rinse and repeat till you kind of identified your sweet spot of like where you want to be at for the organic ranking. And the most important KPI, once again, is your organic ranking. And if you're not monitoring that on a daily basis, then you're basically losing out on a lot of sales that Amazon gives all these sellers. We've had brands that in the past that weren't able to advertise and sold 1,500, 2,000 units per day, all through organic. And that was the power of like ranking number 1, number 2, and number 3 on specific keywords. And obviously that's in the supplement space, but it can apply to any relevant niche out there.
So you're basically going through, you've got a set of routes that you're going to focus on and try to dial in and make sure we get those ranking. You're kind of ignoring some others that you know are still important, but you're going to get to them eventually. But just for that purpose of just staying focused on a certain set of them, you kind of rotate as you go. Is there any negative consequence to like not targeting some of those that, you know, or like those other groups that you still have kind of on the side? They're not going to be really performing. Do you notice anything with that? Or it's fine, you know, once we start putting spend behind it and all that, we can kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, so there's 2 variables on it. So budget, right? So if budget allows for you to do it, target all of them at the same time. Like it doesn't really matter. But for the purposes of budget management, a lot of brands don't want to do that. So we want to hyper focus on a set number of routes. And once you focus on, let's say, 3 to 5 main keywords of that specific route, you're going to see a lift in all other related keywords that have that root keyword in there. So technically, you're not ignoring them. You're lifting them up by going after the best search volume or the best performing keywords. Regarding like the ones that you're below market conversion rate, those are the ones that you don't want to target yet till you improve the offer. So whether it be your main image, price point, or whatever it might be for that keyword, and if is it even relevant for you to even target that keyword? Sometimes not every single keyword is worth going after because brands want to be profitable on Amazon. It's super hard to be profitable these days on Amazon. So you want to carve out your own niche within a niche and just focus on those and have that winning product.
Well, this is an absolutely phenomenal resource, Owais. So thank you for sharing. Just as we wrap things up, why don't you just give us a quick high-level overview of this Gantt chart, which is essentially a project management tool, and let us know just how you guys use it or how you would recommend the audience listening uses it.
Yeah, it's a good visual kind of on a chart for you to see what steps are required during launch to make sure you're prepared. There's a lot of things that happen before launch. So if you notice, the launch phase is right in that March period right here on the screen, which is in the rocket signal right there, right after the kickoff call. But there's a lot of things that happen before the launch, right? So that's where you want to be 100% ready with your product, with your creatives, with every single aspect. So that way you're crushing the launch and you're not just like listing a product. a lot of brands list a product and hope it's going to turn out, but you want to launch a product and do all the right things behind it. And there's a lot of tools out there to make sure that you test things before launch. One of them is IntelliV or PickFu, where you can test your product upfront by your relevant competitors and see whether it actually is going to outperform. So that's kind of like in the product development phase. So the reason for this Gantt chart for visibility is like a brand owner or the person managing the launch understands all the moving pieces before launch and after launch. So that way it's not just like, oh, you list a product and now it's going to be successful. There's a lot of moving pieces and you want to make sure every single thing is checked off.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. And is this something that people can take and make a copy of and then, just basically switch up the date ranges on their thing? I don't know how Notion works, so.
100%. Yeah, it's fairly simple. Just updating the dates will do the trick on the first task. So the first task being R&D phase. Once you do that, everything is kind of like connected to it. Sweet. Anybody can make it.
Phenomenal. Great stuff, Owais. Thank you for coming on, sharing our knowledge. For those who do want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way, or pretty much on the website, amerify.co. That's the best place for us to connect.
We'll be sure to include those links below. And then any final pieces of just parting wisdom, anything that if people take nothing away from this episode except one thing, what would that be? That one most important element?
That is a good question. I would say start tracking your organic ranking for the relevant products that you have selling right now. I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway, because once again, we know this, what gets measured, what's it saying? What gets measured can be improved upon, so that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks so much, Owais. We will see everybody else next time on That Amazon Ads podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.
Thank you for having me on, guys. See you.